Now, welcome back. La Liga kicks off on the 16th of August. We're joined by Dermot Corrigan to get a sense of the goings-on over the summer. Dermot, we'll come to Barcelona in a while, and you wrote a piece about Xabi Alonso, who's continuing his management career as well, which is interesting. But Gareth Bale, we had fully thought he was off to China, and at the last minute, the Real Madrid board decided to block the move.
Hey, Joe, how's it going? Yeah, it's amazing, really, what's happened over the last week or so with Bale. I don't think... When the China thing first came up, maybe rumours started to appear in the Spanish media. I for one, didn't take it too seriously. I find it hard to believe that Bale would end up at China. He just turned 30, or in China, he just turned 30 earlier this summer. Seemed a strange one to me, but yeah, behind the scenes moves were going on. His agent was talking to the Chinese club, and he could well have gone, only for the last minute Madrid decided that if the Chinese guys were willing to pay so much money to Bale in a salary, then they wanted a piece of it for themselves. They weren't willing to let him go on a free transfer to China, which they had agreed before, and the deal was off.
Bale's only 30 years of age, and he has 3 years left on his Real Madrid contract, so they had a good degree of leverage in terms of letting him go. So what you're saying is right, that Madrid were open to letting Bale go, because frankly Zidane is very clear on that fact, and in doing so free up to 17 million a year in wages, so about 50 million over 3 years. Get that off their books. There were reports over the weekend that they might look at Pogba again, but regardless, get the 50 million euro over 3 years off their books, and you get rid of Bale and spend the money. But the fact that they were willing to pay Bale €1 million a week stopped the move. It almost made them look around at each other and say, well, hang on here a second. Is that kind of the gist?
I think so. It'll be that the 17 million is net, so you have to add the taxes, which is about double that. So it's about 100 million over the 3 years. And I think Madrid president Florentino Perez is a guy he's very good at business. You know, he knows how to work a balance sheet for sure. He's a very successful entrepreneur as well. And he was looking at it going like, if these guys in China are willing to pay Bale this much money, then we deserve some of that. That's what he decided. But then. It didn't work out. That's the story we're being told. There's a lot of kind of competing briefing going on as well, and it can be difficult to know exactly what's going on. But it's clear that something was up, and that in the end it hasn't happened.
You can see the temptation to get rid of, especially if you're talking gross, 100 million over 3 years, get that off your books. I mean, it still wasn't a terrible deal for Real Madrid, though it must rankle when you've paid the guts of 100 million for the guy in the first place. What are they going to do? The Chinese transfer window closes on Wednesday. I don't suppose Zidane has had a change of heart on Bale in any great shape or form.
No, I don't think so. It's really a pickle for everybody involved. What I heard is that China's just gone. The Chinese team, Jiangsu Suning, I'm going to say they signed a different player, a Croatian player, much less high profile forward than Gareth Bale. So their register of foreign players is full up now. So they couldn't go back to him even if things did change again. So he's left with very few options. Could quite possibly be stuck at Madrid, sitting on the bench for the next couple of months, and then hoping, well, I don't know if he would actually hope this way, but Zidane's position at the club is not near as strong as it was even a couple of months ago. Things moved so fast at Madrid that Bale and maybe James Rodriguez as well, who's in a similar position, might be thinking that they can hang around longer and things might change on the management front.
Why is Zidane's position not as strong?
Well, they got hammered 7-3 by Atletico Madrid at the weekend. I know it's only the International Champions Cup. It's a friendly game over in America, but at Madrid, number one, these type of games are taken very seriously, if not by the players, by the boardroom. There's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of pride as well at stake for the directors and the club president who are over there at it. And to lose to their neighbours, to Atletico, who they hate losing to, as much as losing to Barcelona in what they see as such a high-profile game, really put the pressure back onto Zidane. If they win their first 5 league games, they beat Atletico and Barca in the league, it'll all be forgotten about. But just at this very moment, it's not a good look for Zidane.
Bale played in that game over in New Jersey against Atletico, and we know about Asensio's injury at this stage. His ligament damage is significant. So does that open the door in any great way for Bale? Might Zidane be looking at him, in a reluctant-ish way, but looking at him all the same?
Yeah, he might have to, because we'll have to see. Madrid they do have a good few attacking players, as they always do. They've signed a good few younger players. Vinicius Junior came in last season and did very well in his first year, but he's still very young. He just turned 19. They've got a couple of other teenagers who they signed for a lot of money. So maybe the idea would be that we'll get these guys into the team and give them a bit of time. But if things go badly, if it's not working out for them, Zidane is a winner as well. He is a guy who above all just wants to win, and you could see him changing his mind if they need to get Bale in there. He comes off the bench, scores a couple of great goals. This would be a situation that could evolve for sure. Because
it certainly seemed like things had reached an end point a couple of games ago. After the Munich game, Zidane basically said, "We hope he leaves soon." I mean, you just can't be any more blunt than that. It'd be best for everyone. I've nothing personal against him, but we hope he leaves soon. And Jonathan Barnett called Zidane a disgrace. Literally said Zidane is a disgrace. So, relations were at an all-time low. Bale is noticeably reticent and quiet in the midst of all this and doesn't give very much away. I presume there is some discussion even over there where I appreciate the concern is going to be on the fortunes of Real Madrid as opposed to Gareth Bale. But there must be some discussion over the fact that this guy at 30 years of age was willing to go to China, was willing to cash in his chips and effectively say, well, that's the sum total of my ambition now. I'm done, I'm out. And you could argue, look, he's won plenty. But from a personal point of view, that at 30, he was willing to say, farewell Europe, I'm off, and my secondment to China and my £1 million a week. It is staggering. This guy went for 100 million. He was the heir apparent. He was targeting the top echelon of the world game to be up there alongside Messi and Ronaldo. Never really got close, you would have to say. But that he wouldn't be saying to either Zidane, I'm staying here and I'm going to win my place back, David Beckham-esque to Capello, or that he would be saying to Barnett, there's no hope in hell we're going to China. Do not talk to them. We're staying in Europe. We're going to win trophies and I'm going to win a couple of Ballon d'Ors well before I'm done. None of that seems apparent with Bale. It's a really confusing situation.
Yeah, he's a quite enigmatic type of a guy. Like the small bits of opportunities you get to talk to him in the mix zone or in interviews, press conferences and stuff, he gives very little away. And over time, he's given even less away. He used to do more kind of sponsors events when he came to Madrid first, but less so. He did a very interesting interview for a BT documentary last year where he talked about how he had kind of fallen out of love with football. Or he said that he remembered when he was a kid and he used to love the joy of just playing with his friends. But at Madrid, he doesn't have that joy for sure. That the spark is kind of gone. You can see maybe when he joins up with Wales, he's more outgoing. He gets on better with the guys there. I don't think he's particularly unpopular amongst the dressing room at Madrid. They're all but probably more understanding of, or can understand his situation better than we can, looking at it from the outside as his peers. But it is a strange one to see that somebody like Bale, even if he was to say, okay, I'll get Madrid to pay me off, for instance, get Madrid to pay me off and I'll take a big pay cut and go back to Spurs, say, or somebody like that, and try and have a go at the Premier League. But no, it doesn't seem to be an option at the moment.
He's made 79 La Liga starts in the past 4 years. He made 42 starts last year in all competitions, which is not disastrous. And the achievements on paper are phenomenal. 4 Champions Leagues, he's won 1 league, Copa del Rey, 3 Super Cups, 3 Club World Cups. How do you assess his body of work at Madrid? I don't watch them as often as you have over the last number of years, but generally I have watched Bale with a nagging sense of frustration, I must say.
Yeah, it's been some great moments. Yeah, like he scored, the fantastic goals in Champions League finals. He's been there in Copa del Rey final as well. He's even in Clásicos. He's done pretty well. But week to week, he's not been so good. Injuries have been a big problem for him. As soon as he gets back in, he's out again, kind of thing. And also, there's a feeling that he doesn't, around Madrid and at the Bernabeu, he's not maybe on the same wavelength as some of the other team. Players like Isco, who have beautiful silky skills, who play these little 1-2s around the box, that's not Bale's game. No. He wants the ball played out into space. He wants to gallop onto it and knock it past the keeper. And that hasn't helped him to fit in either to the Madrid team or to fit in with the Madrid fans. It's
true. Like, you think the perfect game for Bale is against Maicon all those years ago. That is Gareth Bale. And then he was used in a central position for Spurs for a time. Benitez did a little bit use him in a central position. Like, that's where he needed to be. And it just hasn't quite happened for him. But there must still be a hell of a player there if he's used in the right way. Do we have any sense of what Premier League interest in Bale is? I guess his wages are going to be problematic.
Yeah, the sense that I get is that himself and his agent are not really considering taking any kind of giant pay cut. And at that level, there's only a couple of clubs in England who can afford it, and they're not interested in him at 30 years old and with the injury profile that he has. So he would have to see it a little bit and maybe see it as a new challenge and something that he could take on. But there's no sign of that happening at the moment.
Real Madrid finished 19 points off the pace last season. They spent over €300 million this summer. What kind of bang for their buck have they got?
Yeah, not 300 million's worth it looks so far. Eden Hazard looks he wasn't so good against Atletico at the weekend, but there was a kind of breakdown completely in the whole team. But he looks like the only one of the signings who, will go straight into the team and make it better. There's some young players, Jovic, Militao, who they've spent a lot of money on, young Serbian striker, young Brazilian centre-back. But it's hard to see them breaking immediately into the team based on their previous form. So, the team last season were awful, really. There was a lot of low points through last season, losing 3-0 to Eibar, CSK in Moscow. Even apart from the Clasico defeats, which can happen or going out of the Champions League, just week to week, they were really dreary to watch. And the same guys are going to be there again. So Zidane talked a lot about changes and revolution and everything when he came back, but even after spending that much money, the first 11 is very similar, apart from just Hazard as it stands.
So there's like a distinct chance that they were 19 points off Barcelona, they were 8 points behind Atletico. Still a distinct chance Atletico will pip them again in the league this year.
Yeah, 2 years in a row that Atletico have finished ahead of Madrid in the table, which is, you're going back decades since it had been 20 years before it happened when they won the La Liga a couple of years ago. So, it doesn't tend to happen. And the feeling is not that there's been a big shake-up of the team. You've got the same guys. Sergio Ramos is still there as the captain. Luka Modric is still in midfield. Has been a great player, but they need a boost of newer energy, new athleticism. You can kind of see why Zidane wants to get Paul Pogba in there, a guy who does have maybe the charisma and the CV and the ability to build a team around, or to be a real heartbeat for the team. But with Bale hanging around and with James probably hanging around as well, it's hard to see how they could go and spend even more money to get him.
Yeah. The received wisdom was Zidane left originally because he could see the writing on the wall for this team. It does make his decision to return now look strange.
Well, like when he came back, Benat, every week at his press conferences, he kept saying the same thing with a little bit of a smile about, I'm coming back because there's going to be big changes here in the summer. We're going to shake this thing up. I'm not happy with what I've seen. And then bit by bit, the opportunities to shake it up and to really change the core of the team seem to have slipped away. Yeah. Whether that's because Zidane has been outmaneuvered by Florentino Perez, the club president, whether it's the players themselves are too difficult, like we've been talking about with Bale, to get rid of. But the idea was that Zidane was going to come back with a new team, a clean sweep, and change things around again. But as you say, that it's proving more difficult than he thought maybe to do that.
Barcelona, meanwhile, are having a pretty light workload, it seems, pre-season wise. In terms of transfers, Griezmann and Frankie de Jong were their most eye-catching pieces of business. De Jong, I guess it's fairly apparent where he's going to fit in. What shape is Griezmann going to take as part of this Barcelona forward line, and is Neymar about to be parachuted into it? That's the other big question at the moment.
It's hard to know because Griezmann has made his debut over in Japan last week, but Messi was not back or wasn't with the team yet because he's still post-Copa America. So how the two of them are going to fit together into the team remains to be seen. Luis Suarez, is getting on a good bit. He's had a lot of injury worries, a lot of miles on the clock, but he won't like sitting out games either. So the idea of them signing Neymar, I think there's a lot of people at the Camp Nou who would love to see Neymar back right at the top of the club for his marketing appeal as well, for the links to the Brazilian market, which are also always so important to Barcelona. And Neymar, he's popular with Messi, he's popular with Suarez, he's popular with those guys in the dressing room. But it's going to be very difficult for them to do it. And if they did do it, then they would have a real difficulty in picking a team.
Like I saw one formation where they had Griezmann behind Suarez, Neymar on the left, and shunting Messi out to the right hand side again, like a 4-2-3-1. Messi's not going to sign up for that.
No, I'd imagine a team might be able to hit them on the break if they did set up like that. A good tactical opponent will be able to take them apart. Yeah. No, most of all, Messi wants to win. Similar to what I said to Zidane, for Messi, getting knocked out of the Champions League all those times has really, in embarrassing circumstances, really hurt him. That's the big focus for the club. Messi's the club captain now. He's got a lot of power, so it's hard to see them setting up like that. Even if he likes Neymar in theory, it's difficult to see it happen. And
Dermot, in the various dispatches, I don't know how often Valverde is speaking to the press or how often the Barcelona players are. Does the shadow of that mad night at Anfield still kind of hang over them a little bit? Is there still a bit of head scratching as to what happened to their magical season last year? Yeah, for sure. Like the 12 months previously when they went out to Roma, the Roma, that word Roma just hung over their whole season. They talked about it so much all the way through their Champions League group stages, even the night before, the press conference before they went to Anfield, the Roma thing was at the back of their minds.
And it's almost like it affected them. It was a negative. Then when Liverpool started to take control of the game, they were like, oh no, this is happening again, and they weren't able to respond. And it's going to be even worse this year. It's something that they just have to, until they put it behind them by winning, by coming through a difficult second leg, or by winning the Champions League again, maybe it's going to hang over them. Valverde is still there. I thought anyway that he wasn't going to survive because he's the coach for both of those awful second leg collapses. He has survived. He's still there. So until he can oversee a big second leg win somewhere away, or else win the Champions League, that's going to be the main thing that people associate with him, even if he has won 2 league titles in 2 seasons.
Yeah. Before you go, you wrote a piece today for the Independent website, or people can check your Twitter feed, I'm sure, for it as well, about Xabi Alonso, whose management career continues to develop. He was working with the Real Madrid underage teams, and now he has pitched up back at Sociedad, where he started as a player, with their B team. So that's the 3rd tier in Spanish football. Alonso was such a Rolls-Royce player and barely put a foot wrong as well in terms of how he manoeuvred his career. He's obviously very, very serious about management and going about it in a fairly patient way, it seems.
Yeah, for sure. He's clearly thought about it a lot, and he's done a couple of different interviews here with the Spanish media as well. And you can see he's happy to talk tactics in those interviews, where often ex-players are not so open about it, or maybe are not so interested in it. He's very interested in his tactical systems, is how you bring the ball out from the back, that type of idea. And he did very well at Madrid. He was very well liked there. They didn't want to leave him, but going back to his hometown of San Sebastian with Real Sociedad makes a lot of sense. They've got a really good youth setup there. Youth football is really important to them. Basque Country, a lot of good young players come through, so he'll have a lot to work with. He'll have a really good setup, less of the pressures maybe that you get around the Madrid training ground, less of the media circus on it. So I'd expect him, I wouldn't really like to be the Real Sociedad first team manager and see Xabi Alonso coming in, because he's a guy who's worked his way up through the ranks from the youths to the B team and has taken over the first team. So if things don't go well for him, there'll be a lot of talk to get Alonso into the first job. But he doesn't seem to be in a hurry, Xabi Alonso. He seems to know exactly what he's doing, and in a couple of years we are going to see him in, whether it's in Spain or in England or wherever it is, he's going to be a top manager, I'd say, for sure.
Okay. Dermot, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Cool. Cheers, Joe.